Good day, gang. I'm here to explain to you in broad strokes, and I am going to use the word broad strokes because there's so many different explanations, I guess you'd call it, or words I use to describe these 5 or 6 things that I'm going to talk about now. And these are the ones I've been using for 20 odd years. They're used with oil majors. They're considered the standard, I guess. So when I'm explaining these to you now in broad strokes, this is to give you an appreciation of what we're talking about. Okay? So let's start off with the basics. Near misses. So near misses is something happens, something catches on fire, blows up, explodes, you name it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be thinking that large or that, it doesn't have to be a poof and all-ending event. Okay? It can be something at loss of control, as in you were walking down a set of stairs, you slipped, you caught yourself before you got hurt, and that was a near miss, a loss of control. It can also be a loss of primary containment. So it could be an environmental factor. So you could have a small oil leak on board, loss of refrigerant, all these kind of things. They're all environmental things. Throwing garbage over the side. It's illegal. So another way of thinking of a near misses as well is breaking the rules, not following the permit to work. Illegal, like I said, throwing something over the side, not following a procedure. Those things are all near misses. Also, working outside of parameters. So if you have a gauge that's registered, set up for 1 to 5 bar, and it's reading 6, it's working outside of parameters. That is a near miss. The key to near misses is something outside of control, outside of the boundaries of where it's supposed to be set points. Okay? So a near miss, and the other thing the near miss is, key to it is, no one gets hurt. That is the key to it. So a near miss, no one gets hurt. As soon as someone gets hurt, it escalates into the next couple of levels. So the next level, good old basic level, is first aid cases. Someone cuts their hand, scratches their hand, bam, first aid case. You go to your medical treatment officer on board. In my examples, is always the chief mate. He's my medical officer on board my ships. So you go to your chief officer. He puts a Band-Aid on your hand, cleans it up with antiseptic, puts a Band-Aid on, and you go back to work. It's not, like I said, you're not losing time. You're not getting sent home for it. It's a small scratch in your hand. It's a Band-Aid. It's a first aid case. I know I'm saying they're, low level and stuff like that, but still, near misses and first aid cases, there's still accident investigation involved, finding out the cause of the incident, the root cause. We'll talk about that later on. We'll talk about accident investigation, finding out why it happened, and also preventative measures for preventing it from happening again. All that good stuff. So that's your first aid case. Let's say your cut, though, is fairly deep. The chief officer gives you a little bit of treatment, puts a Band-Aid on it, but you're looking at it going, "Why, that's pretty deep. I'd like to go see a doctor. I don't think that Band-Aid's going to cut it." So you make arrangements, send you to a doctor. Doctor goes, "Yeah, that's bad. Let's put a stitch in that." Stitches it up, puts some more antiseptic on it, cleans it up. And as soon as you go to see the doctor, and as soon as the doctor gives you treatment, it becomes a medical treatment case. Now, before I go any further, I want you to be aware that there is 2 lists. Okay, for everything that we do, for all kinds of treatment and medications and stuff like that. There's list A and there's list B. And if you choose from list A, then bam, it gets categorized as a first aid case. And if you choose from list B, then it gets recorded as a medical treatment case or worse. Okay, so there's different levels of medications, and I want you to be aware of that. So if I'm a chief officer and I choose something from list B, and I give you that treatment, then poof, it gets escalated to a medical treatment case. And same thing for the doctor. If the doctor gives you something from list A, and you get treated and he sends you back with all your paperwork, and you send that paperwork off to the office, and the office grades it, and then they send it back and say, "No, that is a first aid case." And you'll hear it all the time. So, "Oh, the officer's fudging their numbers. He went to shore, he got medical treatment. It should be a medical treatment case," and stuff like that. Those people just do not understand, okay? The company has very, very little say in that categorization. They have a set list. If you use A, B, C, or D, if you use A and B, then bam, it's this. If you use C and D, it's that. Okay? So don't think that's some kind of conspiracy. I don't know why people do, but every person I've ever met, it's all a conspiracy. They all want numbers and statistics and stuff like that. And it just, anyway, we won't get into that. So be aware that there is a list of A's, list A and list B. And if you choose from A, it could be a medical treatment case. And if you choose from B, it could be a first aid case. Easy peasy, nothing too fancy. So the doctor, he's got to put a stitch in your hand. And he says, "Why, I hear you, what kind of work do you do?" When you say, "I work in the engine room," or "I work out on deck, I'm chipping and painting all the time." And the guy goes, "Well, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to restrict your work for 2 days to give this a chance to heal." And then therefore, it goes from a medical treatment case to a restricted work case. And to be a restricted work case, there's a set number of days to be qualified as that. And we'll get into that a little bit later when we get into the text of this. So, and we get into, also when we get into the matrix in risk assessment. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So, the first one is first aid case, then it gets escalated to a medical treatment case, and then the doctor or the chief mate, same thing, could say, you know, they've been cut or injured and they restrict your work. So it could say, instead of going out on deck and doing chipping and painting where there's all kinds of dust and stuff flying around, they restrict your work and they put you on watchkeeping duties, or cleaning inside the accommodation, or do some, or if you're in the interim, just do some stores inventory and all that good stuff, you know. So restricted work case, or they could put you to bed for 2 days, you know, whatever that is. Okay. Your last one, or not your last one, but your next one is total lost time incident, or also called lost work case. And this is where you're injured so badly that you had to leave the installation, you had to leave the rig or the ship and be sent home. So let's say your cut doesn't turn into a cut. Let's say poof, you lose your finger. Okay, we can't keep you on board with a missing finger, and then they send you home. So a lost work case is you're losing work. You're losing a worker. That's how I always think of it. And the guy gets sent home. And last but not least, God forbid, is a fatality, and God forbid it never happens. Okay, so these top four, the medical treatment case, the restricted work case, the lost time injury, and the fatality, they make up the top apex, and they are what we call the total recordable case. And that is measured in total recordable case frequency, as in how many total recordable cases per million man-hours. So the marine industry uses million man-hours. If you were ashore, maybe in the chemical industry, I think they use 100,000 hours for their touchstone. So we use 1 million man-hours. There's a formula as well we're going to talk about in the text and how to explain how that works. But just so you know, those four categories: medical treatment, restricted work, lost time injury, and fatality. A little bit of a story as well, because safety is always improving. It's always a journey. All right? When we talk about going through the culture ladder, escalating and getting better and better and better. So in the 70s, and I'll use my old company of Shell. In the 70s, Shell used to kill 50 people a year. That's almost a person a week. Okay, that's 70s. That's, you know, that's back 40 or 50 years ago. So let's put that in perspective. So back then we used to kill the industry, not just Shell. The industry used to kill a lot of people, and back then the total recordable case back then was only fatalities, because there were so many of them happening. They had good statistics to measure that. And then planned maintenance was invented, and we stopped blowing up stuff and fixing things before they broke and killed people and stuff like that. And that improved safety statistics. And then we included lost time injuries, because we weren't killing as many people as we were, but we were still injuring people and sending them home. So to make the statistics sensible, right? Because there's no more deaths, you know. There's no more deaths, but less of them. So they included lost time injuries. And then in the 1980s, poof, ISM was invented, and safety statistics in the industry decreased again. Okay, and then there was almost zero fatalities, very low in the fatalities level, very low in the lost time injuries level. So then they had to increase it again to the top of the pyramid to keep the system working. So then they included restricted work cases and medical treatment cases. So now, today, we have total recordable case frequency of fatalities, lost time injuries, medical treatment cases, and restricted work cases. In a decade from now, or 15 years or 20 years from now, we're going to stop injuring people even less. And I can almost guarantee you that eventually first aid cases are going to be put into that category, because we're just going to be such a safe industry, and that's how it's going to work. So that's my little story on those four categories. We'll get a little more in-depth and detailed with them, but just keep that in mind. Safety is always evolving. All right, and those are my categories. Starts off with good old near misses. You don't get hurt. First aid, treatment on board, medical treatment case, medical treatment by a doctor, restricted work. You're restricted, okay, for a day or two, nice and easy. Lost time injury or lost time incident, you're sent home, and fatality is, God forbid, never happens. And that's my categories, guys. Thank you very much.